AccessTalks, a series of seminars organised by postdoctoral and predoctoral members of the TransMedia Research Group. TransMedia Catalonia is a research group at Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona. A bold circular logo shaped like a purple speech bubble features the word access in large yellow letters and talks in bold white below it. Underneath it says by TransMedia Catalonia in smaller white text. At the top, a simple white figure with outstretched arms inside a circle represents inclusivity and accessibility. AccessTalks, Seminar 1, AI and Accessibility, Navigating the Challenges, Exploring the Potential. An initiative included in the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, featuring Be AI-Aware campaign by the ALFI Project, Assessment of Learning Technologies and Frameworks for Intelligent and Ethical AI.
This webinar has been organized as part of the Global Accessibility Awareness Day by TransMedia Catalonia and its initiative AccessTalks. TransMedia Catalonia is a research group researching and promoting accessibility and media accessibility. Additionally, this webinar has been organized as well as part of the Be AI-Aware campaign by the ALFI project. And ALFI is an European project aiming to promote accessible, ethical, and unbiased AI tools and frameworks. And maybe now you are wondering, who is this stranger talking to you? My name is Chiara Gunella, and I'm an anthropologist working at TransMedia Catalonia. My pronouns are she and her. I have green eyes, light brown hair, a piercing on my right nostril. I'm wearing a black t-shirt, and I'm sitting in my studio today. Now let's go to the key question. Why are we here today? Why AI and accessibility, and why this conversation matters? We are here because we acknowledge that AI is becoming an integral part of our lives. I'm pretty sure we are all familiar with automatically generated video captions on our social media, or voice assistants for our smart homes, speech-to-text platforms that help us to communicate, or proofreading tools to check our grammar, or object recognition apps that help us to understand what is in front of us, that can also be translated in tools such as the AI Suitcase, which is a tool for blind users and users with low vision that support you in for obstacle detection and navigation and movements. AI is also present in sign language avatars that are starting to be spread in our train station and airport, for example, the Belgrade airport. Or let's think about RayWalk exoskeleton, which is a tool that supports users with spinal cord injuries to regain mobility, where AI is integrated to respond and adapt to different terrains. Or finally, let's think about AI tools for recruitment. So we are here at this webinar because we acknowledge that AI is present in our life in different formats, different ways, and we are using it for different reasons. But today, what we want to try to answer to is AI accessible, or does it perpetrate bias and exclusion? And if so, how can we fix it? Because if we look at three elements of this list of uses of AI, for example, voice assistants, speech-to-text platforms, or AI tools for recruitment, we realize that biases are there, and users and researchers are showing us that as well. So just to give you an example, voice assistant and speech-to-text platforms, feedback is telling us that these tools struggle with diverse accent and non-standard speech patterns if they're not trained with diverse data sets, and this can perpetuate already existing discriminations. Or looking at AI tools for recruitment. AI-powered recruitment tools, for example, video recorded interviews and AI tools that analyze video recorded interviews may create discrimination for example, a neurodivergent individual who might prefer to move around in a room or avoid eye contact, because these tools, what they check is body language, the gaze, the movement. So if we are not careful, we continue to perpetrate biases. So yes, sorry, I don't know if you can still see my screen. Yes. So yes, we are aware that AI is there, but also biases are there, and we want to find ways to address them. So we need for us to avoid building AI models that and frameworks through ableist perspectives. And instead, we should use for us inclusive lenses that consider diversity in data sets, yes, but also in user interfaces and design choices. So our invitation is for you to put your glasses with inclusive lenses on and start this journey in this webinar with us. And before I show with you the rich agenda that we have, I would like to know what you as an audience think about these thematics. So I have a Mentimeter for you that you can even join through the link in the chat or through taking a picture at this QR code, where we ask you to answer to two key questions. What are the potential risks and limitations of AI for you? And what are the main strengths of AI for you? And as a reminder, you can even click on the link in the chat or use the QR code or use the code 45081953. And I see that you are already answering. So in terms of potential risks and limitations, I see lots of you consider bias, the cost, the environmental impact, trust, loss of writing skills, human factors, sustainability, loss of critical thinking, confidence, ethics. The three main elements that emerge are bias, cost, and trust and ethics. Perpetuating existing bias, over-reliance on AI, digital barriers, privacy, lack of data sets, no privacy, creation of fake materials, and perpetuating existing bias again. It appears again. But yes, the main elements that emerge are sustainability, bias, and ethics. And now that we focus on, and we are still focusing because I see that we are receiving more answers on the risk and limitations, I would like you to think as well on the strengths on AI for you. So I would like to ask you to continue answering to this Mentimeter, sharing with us what for you are the strengths. They are intelligent. Fast response, productivity gains, ease to use, time saving, creation, good support, productivity gains, accessibility, easy to use again. They take care of boring, automation, speed of completing tasks. Time saving is the main result, and productivity. Automation and fast. Help with comprehensive. So yes, I see that these insights reflect the complexity of the topic. And I think that set the stage of our discussion with our speakers. So we will have a first presentation by Zenon Lembro on AI and facial recognition, biases and areas for improvement. Then we will move to the presentation of Horacio Sajjon from Universidad Pompeu Fabra on AI for easy language, can AI simplify information? Then Cave Norrie will present from European Disability Forum on the impact of artificial intelligence on persons with disabilities. And finally, we will have a roundtable with Elenica Materi from Infalia, Malwen Herranz from Pangeanic, and Pilar Orero from TransMedia Catalonia on Mapping the Landscape, Language Technologies, and AI Today. And so let's start with the first speaker. Zenon, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. Let me share my screen. Hello everyone, my name is Zenon Lamprou. I am from Cyprus. I have brown eyes, no hair, but I have brown a brown beard, which is important for my presentation. And yeah, so what I'm gonna talk about today is the biases and areas of improvement in AI and facial recognition in the domain of drowsiness detection in autonomous vehicles. So we'll be working on creating a drowsiness detection app because according to WHO, 1.3 million people lose their life on the road and 2 to 50 million suffer non-fatal injuries. And one of the main causes for this is drowsiness in while driving. And because of that, many driver monitoring systems were invented to observe the driver and produce alerts when they determine that the driver is drowsy. We ourselves have a DMS app, Android application internally, which we try using third parties machine learning models to identify drowsiness. We try to provide real-time assessment of the drowsiness and then create alerts for the driver while feel drowsy. During the testing of our app, we'll see that it couldn't pick up because it will take facial landmarks of people. It wouldn't pick up correctly the mouth mainly. For people with different facial characteristics. So for me, for example, I have a beard, it wouldn't pick up my mouth. It was one indication for detecting drowsiness, so it wouldn't work correctly for me. And also from people with different racial backgrounds, for example, people from Asian origin, it wouldn't pick up their eyes correctly. So it will constantly produce alerts about being drowsy. So our objective was to basically move away from the third party apps and create an unbiased and fair drowsiness detection model. So what exactly is bias? Let's start from here. So bias in machine learning refers to systematic errors that would favor a certain groups over another. And also it will lead to a fair or inaccurate discrimination. So for example, it will classify Asians being drowsy if you take the eye landmarks, so the distance, it will classify them as drowsy constantly, whereas it's not that true. And then some of the possible causes is that there might be biased data or unbalanced data, or maybe the data have been labeled from humans, so they have human bias in it. In facial recognition, as I said, we recognize two types of biases. So one is racial bias, so people from different races they might not pick up correctly the characteristics of the face for those persons, and also it might have a bias on some facial characteristics. So, for example, people with beard might not get accurate predictions because the model haven't been trained in such data, so it wouldn't know to classify the frames correctly, let's say, and will lead to false positive or negatives in both cases. So some facial or racial characteristics could lead to wrong predictions, basically, and not make the model as accessible to the general audience as it should be in a domain of, for example, drowsiness detection, where you want it to be accurate no matter what, basically. So, as there is some challenges for people with disabilities as well. For if you're using not DMS per se, but if you're using other facial recognition softwares, for example. So now there is they try to make models that will take into account if you wear different wearable devices. So, for example, glasses, because if you wear glasses, currently it will not pick up the eyes um, very well. So that creates a barrier for people with disabilities. Also, many facial recognition systems would try to produce alert, but would not take into account um, individual needs. So, for example, a deaf person cannot hear sound coming as an alert. So you need to implement different alerts to accommodate every person. So there is a bias, but then how do you mitigate that bias? How do you overcome that bias? So one way is to use diverse and representative data sets. Another way is to add fairness constraint during training. So try to have an equal representation of every ethnic group or racial group, or try to have a balanced data set so your model is more balanced. Then you can try and uh, apply some reinforcement learning. So explain the model why the prediction is wrong, for example. And you can do that by putting humans in the loop. So allow the humans to basically question the predictions of the model. So when an alert is produced, just say this is a false alert, so the model can adjust itself. And finally, we need a legal and an ethical framework for such models. So before the models are released, then there may be some legislation of being tested somehow automatically, if they're legal or ethical, over to how accurate they are in general. So in summary, we have a drowsiness detection app, and where we're testing this app, we could see that there is a racial and a facial characteristics bias when you're doing facial recognition with AI, and we recognize that this might be a generic problem, not just for the drowsiness detection problem we're trying to address. And since the problem we're trying to address should be accessible for everyone and work as well for everyone that basically can drive, so it shouldn't be biased towards people with beard and versus people without beard. So it should work consistently across everyone. That we need to do something to mitigate those biases and make this model perform well. Thank you for your time. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stay at the end of this webinar because I'm attending a physical conference in Cyprus. But if you have any question, you can find my email in the chat, and please let me know if you have any questions after the webinar. I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zenon, for shedding light on the biases in facial recognition technologies, but also to share practical insights on how we can make these systems more inclusive. Now we will move to the second presentation by Horacio Sajjon from Universitat Pompeu Fabra that will present AI for easy language. Can AI simplify information?
Great, thank you. Artificial intelligence for easy language. Can artificial intelligence simplify information? So first, thank you very much, Chiara, for organizing this session together with TransMedia Catalonia and Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona. I am very happy to be here in this Accessibility Awareness Day. I am Horacio Sajjon. I will describe myself. First time that I have to do it in a presentation, so I follow instructions by Chiara. So I am professor at Universitat Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona, Spain. I am a white male individual. I am also wearing a beard, but this time is gray. I use glasses over my green eyes. I am a computer scientist from Argentina with research interest in the area of natural language processing, and I have been working for several years in projects related to inclusion and accessibility, but always from the point of view of natural language processing. So now, we all have the rights to receive information from our government and local organizations and from the news, and this will increase our trust and transparency of organizations and will make us gain knowledge. However, the information that is usually published in different webs and also in printed material can be very difficult to understand for several individuals. And that's why we have the right to accessibility, which is advocated by the United Nations Conventions of the Rights of Persons with Disability, people with disabilities may struggle to make sense of content, and in particular written content, but not only people with disabilities. So we may encounter different persons who may struggle with making sense out of information. So for example, elderly people, as they get old, they may struggle because they lose cognitive capabilities. People who come to a country and they need to communicate in the language of the country may struggle because they are not still aware of the language they are living in. So we need to make information more accessible. And there are two methods which have been which have emerged from users and organizations concern about the lack of accessibility of documents, and these methods are known as easy to read and plain language, which provide guidelines for the design and the linguistic recommendations to improve the readability of printed, digital material, written, or oral material. The main differences between easy to read and plain language is that easy to read emphasizes linguistic simplification, so it will be concentrated more on very short sentences, for example, and also gives recommendations for the design, and it is based on rules that are established in these guidelines. Easy to read also focuses strongly on the user who is included in the process of creation and validation of the information that is being produced. Different from easy to read and plain language is what we call automatic text simplification, which is a computational method for reducing the complexity of a text by modifying the vocabulary and by modifying the syntax of the sentences and text, while trying to preserve the information and the meaning of the original. The goal is to make a text which is in principle complex, easier to read and understand for a wider audience. And here we have an example of simplification from the point of view of computational point of view. So you may have a sentence such as the verses were composed by the renowned bard. This is a quite complicated sentence because it has very complicated vocabulary or unusual vocabulary, and also has syntactic constructions which can be a barrier for several people. So an automatic text simplification could simplify this into the famous poet wrote the poem, so which is obviously easier to understand because it's shorter, because it has less complicated words. There has been several methods, computational methods in text simplification. In general, text simplification, following more or less what easy to read proposes, tries to simplify the content of the sentences and also the vocabulary, and it gives rise to two particular sub-tasks in simplification that are called lexical simplification. So, for example, in the previous example that I gave, for example, the change of a complex word such as bard by poet. So you use a simpler synonym for the complex word, or syntactic simplification, such as in the previous example, the modification of the sentence which was in the passive voice by the active voice. And there has been several methods over the years to produce simplifications, such as rule-based methods. So these require analysis of the sentence, automatic analysis of the sentence, and then rules to transform complex syntactic constructions into simpler ones. For lexical simplification, for example, dictionaries and psycholinguistic information in order to detect complex words and also to provide easy-to-read synonyms. Or in the current deep learning paradigm, for example, what is called word embeddings, which can be used for modeling the semantics of words and therefore to identify words which can be used as a replacement for complex words. Text simplification has also been addressed in models of translation models, because you can see simplification as going from a complex text to a simple text. So therefore, it's a kind of translation. In order to apply these methods, usually you need good quality data sets. What it means is examples, but a considerable number of examples where you have original syntax and simplifications. And this is usually difficult to obtain. Current methods in text simplification, whether syntactic or lexical, focus on the use, for example, of what you may have heard of, large language models and prompting techniques. So the typical context will be a ChatGPT to which you ask for a simplification, right? So this can be used for both lexical simplification and syntactic simplification. So you can ask a question to these large language models. You can give the context of that you want to simplify. You may specify a particular word that has been found difficult, and then you could ask the model for either a simpler word or an explanation in case there are not possible synonyms. And a number of studies currently have used what is called as a masking techniques. So you take your sentence, you mask the words that are difficult, and then you ask the model for substitutes of that word in that context. And then you use those substitutions in order to decide which one will be the best one for producing the simplification. Similar techniques can be used for sentence simplification, so with prompting, and this prompting can be, for example, informed by the easy-to-read guidelines that sometimes are complicated to implement by themselves. But here you can use them as a text prompt in order to condition the system to generate a particular types of sentence. For the researcher or the technician who is developing these systems, these language models work surprisingly well because they will produce a simplification, and the simplification will be considered acceptable for the developer. But the question is whether this simplification is correct and could be used by the target user of the simplification. Obviously, the developer of these models is not the person usually who needs the simplification. So therefore, evaluation in text simplification, as in any other activity in natural language processing, is very important. This is not, ideally, we would like to evaluate our text simplification systems with the end user, who is the target of our simplification, but in several occasions, this is not possible. And this is not possible sometimes because you don't have direct access to the user, or you cannot have the user all the time evaluating the different improvements that you made to your system, and it can be extremely costly. And sometimes you find no differences between the perception of a complex sentence versus a simplified sentence, because still the simplified version, which is automatic, is still too complicated. Therefore, sometimes or many times in research in text simplification, we rely on what is called automatic evaluation. So basically what you do is to compare the simplification produced by the system to a human simplification. Obviously, you need a human simplification, and therefore you need data, which is sometimes not available. Also, formulas from machine translation. I said that machine translation could be used for simplification. So formulas that are used in machine translation to measure how good the translation is could be used. Here again, you need data. And sometimes what you are measuring is not exactly whether the simplification is simple enough, or is grammatical enough, or if it is helpful for the reader. Also, you can use readability metrics, but these readability metrics that we are aware of are not very informative. They provide you a number, and this number has, in fact, no more meaning than the number itself. So it can be used to compare different texts, but not to explain whether the text is simple or is more complex. So We are currently working on simplification in a project that is called IDEM, Innovative and Inclusive Democratic Spaces for Deliberation and Participation, because we have observed that several people with reading and writing difficulties are excluded from democratic processes, specifically processes which involve the interaction and debate. And this is because, for example, information that is used in democratic processes, such as electoral programs, information about candidates, democratic debates, topics that you would like to discuss are extremely complicated. So in IDEM, what we want is to create spaces for deliberation and participation where information is simply made easy to read and understand, because understanding the information for participating is the first step that you need in order to be able to participate. And we are working with an interdisciplinary team of experts in democracy, user-centered design, non-governmental organizations, user organizations for people with disability, natural language processing experts, and software integrators. And you can see the names of the partners of this project on the slide. So what we have found so far, so we have we have achieved a better understanding of the linguistic barriers that face people who want to participate in democratic processes. We are designing currently more inclusive spaces for participation in 4 languages: Catalan, English, Italian, and Spanish. We are developing valuable data sets in the area of text simplification, so something that is badly needed in the field, specifically for languages such as Catalan, for which there are no data sets available. We are also developing technology for complexity assessment, so to identify whether a sentence, a text is complex, and what are the sources of this complexity, and then transformation of this text or the sentences in the text into easy to read using current techniques in natural language processing and artificial intelligence. Additionally, we are developing an app that will be used in our use case, and we hope beyond the use cases, which will be offered to simplify text and then that are for debate, let's say, in a deliberative platform, and then be able to participate from the discussion and provide opinions. So the question of can artificial intelligence simplify information? So for nearly 20 years, natural language processing has been working in the area of automatic text simplification, producing valuable resources and valuable research. So the question shouldn't be if AI can simplify information. It certainly can. But the question is how well does it do it, and how helpful the simplifications are for the target audience. So I believe that in the area of large language models and deep learning and generative AI, more interesting questions remain to be answered in this field, such as, for example, whether the output is appropriate for the target audience, whether the output is faithful to the original, whether it doesn't miss important information, whether it doesn't add additional information, whether it is safe to use. That means adding incorrect information that can be harmful for the user. It is unbiased, as in the previous talk. That means how the users of simplification will be treated by the system. So I think that these are useful topics to be addressed in the coming months and years. So thank you very much for listening. And if you need more information about the project or you want to contact me, please follow the links. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Horacio, for your presentation. And I think that a comment in the chat, it's a great summary of how we have all felt about your presentation. It's from Pilar, and she wrote, I wish the Spanish government paid attention to Horacio's work. Life would be easier for all of us. And I think we need tools like yours to guarantee access to democracy to all of us. In Italy, soon we will have a referendum, and it would be great to have information, for example, in an easier way. So thank you very much for your work and for showing us the challenges, but also possible solutions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so now we will move to the next presentation. The next speaker is Cave Nori from the European Disability Forum. And as an AI policy officer, Cave advocates for disability inclusive AI practices and digital rights. And today he will discuss how AI can impact persons with disabilities and analyze whether the EU Act addresses these concerns. So Cave, the floor is yours, and thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Can you confirm that you hear me and that it's the level of noise is okay? Because I'm actually at another conference right now.
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So thank you very much, and I hope that the presentations and discussions until now have been wonderful. I will share my screen now. As you said, I work as AI policy officer at the European Disability Forum, which is an umbrella organization of all organizations of persons with disabilities in Europe. And we have a 3-year project that we work on with AI, and it has 3 pillars. The first one is advocacy, where we have been doing lobbying on the AI Act that was formulated by the European Union. And then another part was that we did capacity building for organizations of persons with disabilities, basically so that they could understand what is AI, why does it affect people with disabilities and how, and why should we care about how it's regulated. And then the third thing is that we do awareness raising, so towards politicians and developers and the general public about how AI affects persons with disabilities. And in the context of this, we're actually about to release an infographic that explains this, that is directed towards developers and politicians. So if we start with the opportunities of AI, this is assuming that the AI is reliable, and I'm thinking that there is AI like ChatGPT that can convert text and make it more understandable. And if we assume that it's reliable and usable, then it could be used to create interactive learning material for children with different learning styles. You can have speech to text that can support people who are hard of hearing. I'm not suggesting that you should replace human interpreters with speech to text, but speech to text is becoming much more reliable and usable in many more situations. There is AI like Be My Eyes that can offer audio descriptions to people with low vision, and you have AI that can work as planning assistants. However, if we look at the risks with AI, there can also be risks of lack of accessibility and lack of personalization. For example, if the AI has not been developed with people with disabilities in all their diversities in mind, there can also be a violation of personal privacy. Or if you, for example, force a student at university to use a automated speech to text if they're hard of hearing, and it's not reliable, then you're reducing their quality of education, basically. So there are risks with AI that we also need to deal with, and a lot of times it's related to how it is implemented and what risks you accept. Because most decisions about AI are political, and there is always like implications, positives and negatives and trade-off, and that's something we have to keep in mind. If we look at the good sides of the AI Act. And so the AI Act is a law in the European Union that regulates the use of AI, and it's based on different risk categories. It has unacceptable risk, high risk, and the high risk is, for example, AI that is used to decide who gets a job, if you get yes or no on a benefit application from the government, and then there is something called general purpose AI, which is AI that is used to, for example, ChatGPT and a lot of these language models, AI that is used to create text, images, videos, audio, or also to describe the content in them. And what we can see with the AI Act, so I'm really trying to compress it because it's a very short presentation, is that the positive side is that there is a mandatory requirement for AI that is high risk, that it has to be accessible. And then when it comes to AI that is high risk and also AI that is general purpose, or what used to be called medium risk AI, so the language models, they have to undergo bias testing. Another positive thing is that an individual has the right to get an explanation to why a high-risk AI made a certain decision. And another positive thing is that when companies are going to use an AI that is high risk, they must do something called a fundamental rights impact assessment, which is that they have to assess how fundamental rights, different human rights that are in the catalog of human rights in the European Union Charter of Fundamental Rights are affected. If we look at the weaknesses, the AI Act is not a human rights law, like, for example, the GDPR. It is a product safety law. And when you complain about an AI that is, for example, biased, it is treated like a product defect. So just like a light bulb that is not working, it means you give your complaint to the authority, and then they totally can decide if they should investigate it or not. So this is a bit problematic because the AI has such human rights implications for people, and this is a flaw that we see. And then the risk categories that the AI says this is high risk, this is medium risk. We can see that this is adapted towards the majority population and does not fully take the needs of marginalized groups such as people with disabilities into account. And another thing is that is a bit unfortunate is that the mandatory accessibility requirements do not apply to general purpose AI, which was the language models, or low risk AI. And it also doesn't allow organizations to file complaints on behalf of individuals, which is also a bit unfortunate because it can be a bit difficult if you feel that you don't know a lot about AI and want to complain about it. It can be difficult to explain it, and that's why it would be good to have this. Another flaw with the AI Act is, for example, that emotion recognition, which is quite dangerous and inaccurate for many different demographic groups, including persons with disabilities. They are recognized as dangerous and unreliable at work and at school, but then still police and migration authorities can use it. So we see that there is a risk of violations for human rights there that is unfortunate. And finally, if we go to what the future of AI regulation holds, well, we have the EU AI Act, which is a very important step, despite its shortcomings. But the US, which is like we've at least historically been very influenced by the US in the EU, they are pushing to deregulate things. So the administration has, for example, removed the requirement that government authorities in the US on a federal level, they must test their AI systems for bias. And just yesterday, I read an article that said that it has been introduced, a bill has been introduced in Congress in the US where they will forbid US states from regulating AI, for example, on a state level, that they must work against bias. So there is a bit of worry that this will push also companies to also lobby the EU, to be like competitive, that we might see some relaxation of technology laws in the EU. That would be unfortunate. And I think there are discussions going on, but nothing concrete that we know exactly what it will turn out. But for the future, it would be important to safeguard the rules that we have, because they're really important to keeping us safe, and also make sure that we can trust the digital landscape and the technology that's coming forward. I think that's the only way we will be able to make AI safe and also make people trust AI, if we now are going towards increased digitalization and use of AI. So I thank for your attention, and yeah, I hope I didn't go over time, and that there is
perfect timing, Cave.
Super.
Actually, thank you very much for making this zoom into policy making that we also needed to hear about, and for analyzing the AI European Act in such a critical way. At the end of this session, we will have 10 minutes for questions and answers. So to the public, start writing down the questions that you have and keep them for later. So now we will move to the last panel of the day on mapping the landscape, language technologies, and AI, moderated by Pilar Orero from TransMedia Catalonia, with our speakers Eleni Kamateri from Infalia, Manuel Enranz from Pangeanic.
First of all, I would like to thank Chiara for organizing this, and also to all my colleagues at TransMedia Catalonia, and also to the TM, the MA, the MUTA master that they are participating here, like Aruna. I know that they are very short of time finishing their MA dissertation, but thank you for being here, all of you. Without further ado, let's go to, of course, this doesn't move now. Yes, I would like to present my two guests. The first one is Eleni from Infalia, and then is Manuel from Pangeanic. But rather than me presenting them, which is a bit boring, I would like to, I have to audio describe myself. Yes, I am short, I am well built, which is, as Horacio would say, I am fat. So this is the short built, sorry, the well built bit. I have round glasses and very short hair, white hair, and I'm pretty old. I'm 66. So without further ado, now let's go to Eleni. Eleni, do you want to present yourself and who you are and where you come from? And then, okay, here we go.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me. Also, I'm here in front of Yanis because he's in a meeting, but I will try to represent him well. So my name is Eleni Kamateri. Mainly, I'm working as a senior researcher, but my main role is a operation developer at Infalia. Infalia is a spin-off company of CERT, a research institute, a big research institute in Thessaloniki. I have a degree in electrical and computer engineering, and also 2 master degrees, and also I have pursuing some years ago a PhD study. So I'm also a researcher in natural language processing and text classification. So I have some practical knowledge and expertise in AI issues, threads, and limitations and opportunities. And this is the main team. Yanis and Tassos work for me in Infalia. And in Mosaic, I would like to say a few things about Mosaic. In Mosaic, we bring our knowledge from a previous project, and mainly these services and tools, AI tools that we bring to the Mosaic are annotation services, object detection, action detection, face recognition, and other augmented and other annotation services that we provide to images and videos. let's go to the rest of the projects that I would like to say a few things here. Besides the Mosaic and a lot of AI services and tools that we operate there, we are participating in a lot of other projects. Among of them, I selected 3 ones that are more AI related. The PrevHead, that is an Erasmus project that combats sexual harassment in Europe. And there our role is to develop an AI-based chatbot that will be trained on the use cases that we have in the project. The Immerse, a project, again, an Erasmus project that promotes the cultural integration of foreign students. And there we are going to develop interactive virtual reality scenarios and platforms, environments, in order to help these foreign students familiarize with the culture. And finally, an Horizon project, the SAFE, that combats the cyber threats, and there our role is to extract security logs in order to ensure analysis traceability of problems and other threats in the cyber. That's all from myself. I think that
No, it
Pilar,
isn't. You forgot to audio describe yourself, because today is Accessibility Day, and Chiara, our boss, made us audio describe ourselves. Horacio had to do it, so you have to do it as well. So what do you look like? And prepare yourself, Manuel, because you're next.
To describe myself, you mean say a few things about myself or my studies, my research?
No. Imagine I am a person who cannot see you, and you have to tell me as if we were in a radio. You have to tell me, what do you look like? Eleni, who has long hair, she has her headsets on, she wears. So go on, or I do it for you, which is worse.
Okay, I wear glasses, and because I have a lot of a big problem with my eyes, and a pink a rose skirt, something like that, or other information.
Any information that you think. For example, what color of skin are you?
Yeah, Pilar, I would say you can go on that.
Okay, Eleni is a young lady. She has a white lady from Greece. She has long hair, today in a ponytail. She has headsets to speak now, and black, very beautiful black glasses with plastic or paste glasses. And she has got a white shirt and a beautiful jewelry in the middle of her neck.
Thank you. Thank
You
you,
like
Pilar.
that?
Just to say that I'm not so young, I'm 45.
Oh, bloody hell, that's very young. Now, let's go to the next, my next guest, who is Manuel Herranz. Manuel, you go now.
Hello, so I'm Manuel. So here's my audio description. I'm the guy with a, well, Southern European looking, white, black hair with, well, black and white hair, and 56. So, you know, the white. If you were to look at me from behind, you would see a growing bald patch. Happens when you're over 50. I wear square blue glasses, and right now a light blue polo shirt. I'm sitting in my office, so the background is quite neutral. It's a white wall with my black chair.
Thank you. That'll do. Thank you very much. Now you can go with your presenting yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for inviting me today, Pilar and the university team. I've been leading Pangeanic for the last 20 years. The company was born out of a buyout that I led from my old Japanese boss. So we have a strong connection with the Japanese market. Since 2009, we've been collaborating with European universities in natural language processing. Machine translation was our first step. Nowadays, we do many other things, intelligent chatbots, knowledge management, building of data, a lot of data for machine learning applications. And then within natural language processing, simplification of it was very interesting what Horacio was mentioning before about simplifying the message, because there is something that some companies are asking us to do. And understanding not the water bills, Pilar, but medical terms and even engineering manuals for the person on the street. And also applying this technology as chatbots so that you can talk to your devices. So you can talk to your car. Okay, that's I prefer to talk to people rather than talking to my car. But say you get stuck and you want AI to help you rather than looking through the hundreds of pages in the manuals. You say, look, car, I need to change my wheel. Where's the spare wheel? Or how do I change your oil? Or why are you getting into so many revolutions? Or you seem too hot. Is there a fault in your system? Within Mosaic, so that has allowed the company to have gained a lot of experience with speech systems as well, not just coming from a multilingual background, machine translation, also applied speech, voice to machine translation. And within Mosaic, in particular, we are in charge of AI transcription for some broadcasters. We're the company behind AI transcription in the Spanish Parliament. Not the sessions, but the investigative commissions. So any scandals, the groups go there and they can speak in Catalan, or Basque, or Galician. And we apply that experience in Mosaic to AI transcribe news and data that the broadcasters give us, and sometimes translated for their news services, and occasionally to apply speech and dub it into foreign languages, in other languages. Oh yeah, and one note that I forgot here. Yeah, we worked with the Barcelona Supercomputing Center for a long time, providing them with data for the first Catalan LLM, AINA, and other projects.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So now we have the my two guests introduced. I would like to then go into the question, I mean, this roundtable. And Horacio, if you feel like joining in, please do. Because what I'm going to talk about, or what I would like for you to talk about, is the opportunities and the challenges that AI would offer through the language technologies. So I don't know, Eleni, do you want to start with where do you see the challenge?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. For the challenges, I would try just to say some other challenges besides the bias that I think understand and also recognize to be one of them. Besides them, I would say that AI, especially large-scale AI infrastructure solutions, seem to be an elite's opportunity, because although there's a number of high performance computing sites in Europe, especially with the Euro HPC program, I would say that researchers and other stakeholders and also small companies do not have a lot of access to these infrastructure, so they need to be based on their own enterprises infrastructure, or other big players infrastructure by reading their services. So reliance at the end in these non-European equipment providers. So this is another risk that I would like to mention. Also, of course, it has been also been just mentioned about the regulatory landscape in Europe that makes complicated to have large-scale data sets due to the regulatories and regulations that exist. So at the end, and also due to the fragmented landscape, finally it's difficult and expensive process to collect and also curate all of the data needed for proceed with training, experimenting, and other processes in the AI. Maybe to have a break here and continue some other. Also, I would say a last thing is the expertise. I don't know if Manuel also experienced this issue, but I would say that the experience in AI topics, large-scale topics, besides the AI hubs, Amsterdam, maybe London, it's difficult and very hard, or was some years ago, to find people equipping the jobs and take these roles in companies. So I would say this for the moment. And I will leave the floor for you or for other people.
No, for Manuel, tell us for you, challenges or opportunities? And Horacio, please chip in whenever you want to. So Manuel, go first.
Yeah, one thing. Yeah, I'll follow up what you said, Eleni, because it was quite interesting. One thing, what we call AI, what people call AI in the last 3 years is what we used to call engineering or automated workflows in just, well, up to summer 2022. Artificial intelligence has been a dream and was not even the subject of a lot of research until it became so popular. But the experience that most of us have with AI is chatbots, intelligent chatbot systems that are based on large language models, which is a dead end if you are really after artificial general intelligence. So language technologies have a lot to do with what we're experiencing now. And then I could go on and then talk about inflated expectations and people that think their jobs have disappeared and the AI is going to do everything. And we could have another session for that. But language technologies have a lot to do with what we now, I'm going to use AI for convenience, but I don't agree with what people understand. Part of the team that is leaders of AI companies nowadays are people that come from, guess what, machine translation. Ilya Sutskever was in Google Translate team. Has some papers. You only have to look at the papers he's written. Most of them are about language translation, vision, processing vision, and processing speech translation. Cohere's CEO Gomez, Adrian Gomez, was in Google Translate team as well when Google was based on neural netting. So there is a strong connection between processing language and what we understand now as AI. AI being these chatbots that are based on LLMs. So all boils down to language processing, that is language technologies. Opportunities for people, well, a lot. Many companies, even universities, have a mandate to implement AI, do something with AI. And the danger here is that the order comes from above, because the danger is that you're going to be left out, you're not doing something. But people in between don't understand what they're implementing, why they're spending money, much less the objective or the direction of the investment, sadly. And then we come along, people that have been in language technology, I'm avoiding AI, language technologies, and we have to tell them realistically what they want to do is, well, anything can be done in software. Anything can be done in software, but it would take 3 years and a lot of understanding, and is 4 times more expensive than the budget that they have. Now, to follow up what you said, Eleni, now, is there opportunities through AI for accessibility?
Yes.
Endless, absolutely endless. I do see AI being used at length, for example, in fields such as healthcare, absolutely, and medical research, where research can be accelerated through digital twins, and without having to kill animals, and without doing animal or human experimentation, with optimal results. Now, following up what you were saying, Eleni, is it difficult to find talent and good people working in the field? But luckily, I think the level is rising. There's a lot of machine learning talent out there, and you're proof. You know, Thessaloniki is a very good hub. Don't say just Amsterdam and London. Thessaloniki is a very good
Lately, yeah, so the last years.
I feel less alone now when I walk into the pub. 5 or 6 years ago, I was, well, people thought I was clever because I was working on deep learning. They didn't know what it was. They didn't have a clue what machine learning was. They said, well, we don't understand what Manuel worked. He must be really clever. You know, he was working in something deep. Now the level, because everybody has used one bot and has had that experience, that cognitive experience with a machine, the level is rising. I always tell my children, do whatever you want to do, be happy, but do it with AI. Know the tools, because translators are afraid of being substituted by AI. Insurance people are afraid of being substituted by AI. Lawyers are afraid of being the only people that will be substituted is the people that don't use AI. So translators will be substituted by translators that use AI. Lawyers will be substituted by lawyers that use AI.
Exactly.
Doctors will be substituted by doctors that use AI. And programmers will be substituted by programmers that use AI to write a lot of code. You said, Eleni, I don't do much coding.
I totally agree. The
Right.
criticism remains to be a need.
Exactly. So anything that you do, I don't care what your profession is, do it with AI. And that, okay, I'm digressing here, but I think this is relevant. One of the main differences between China and the rest of the world is the wealth of engineering talent at all levels. And that's not me saying it, Tim Cook said it. One of the reasons why Apple is in China and cannot and will not move away from China is that is the quality of the tooling engineers. There's some video that you can search on YouTube for it, and that for Apple, they need very specific tooling. And he said, look, if I was to find talent in the United States, I could not fill my office, my room with tooling engineers. In China, I can fill stadiums of tooling engineers. And that's the reason why Apple will not move from China. And I have to thank the Chinese for providing such a education system that creates a lot of people with an engineering mindset. I would introduce, I don't know whether you know that Dubai has introduced AI as a subject for 4-year-old plus. No? So
No.
it's there in the curriculum. If you're over 4 years of age, there's a minister of AI, the only country that I know that has a minister for AI. That's permeated to education. So for children over 4, they're going to be taught AI and how to use AI.
Horacio, tell us after,
Yes,
after this amazing
thank you. I
video.
mean, I am learning a lot. I mean, first I was about to, I mean, to agree with Eleni on, I mean, I am a little bit concerned. I am in an academic environment with extremely limited resources, as you may, I mean, all know what happened in academia compared to the developments in companies and the brain drain. So we teach and we work with talented people that then go away to big companies and to solve problems that they solve in teams of I don't know how many hundred engineers. Difficult to compete, right? I mean, we obviously, and we are adopting models that are being produced by companies. I mean, it's like there is little space for shopping around, right? So you have to go for what is being produced. I think that there are opportunities. There are obviously incredible. Also going to what Manuel has said. I mean, we had been working on, so now artificial intelligence people associate with exactly the chatbot ChatGPT, and that's it. So we need to do more to educate more people on what is actually artificial intelligence. So people will come and tell us, why don't you do it with ChatGPT, or ChatGPT will do it for you? I mean, it's that's not the from a scientific perspective. I mean, it's not like you see the output and you say, okay, it's done it correctly, so fantastic. I mean, we need rigorous testing in order to acknowledge that something has been solved with this technology. This technology also assumes certain characteristics, for example, language as a sequence, speech as a sequence, image as a superposition of elements, right? So, but there is much more to cognition, and I am worried about the misuse of concepts like understanding. It's understanding, or it's providing an explanation. But the explanation is just a text that, So this vocabulary kind of misuse, but obviously is natural when this goes into the public domain. And
Horacio, I think you've pointed to some interesting areas here. Well, I feel the fear as well in academia because AI is coming, and I've spoken in many forums, spoken to many colleagues. I sense fear of being replaced by AI, but That's completely a wrong angle. If you think that if you face life or face an opportunity or a challenge with fear, you're going to be reactive. So first thing that you have to do is understand the technology and then see what you can do with it. So what makes afraid is that the technology for the first time in human history is fluent. Okay, we have a machine that produces language. I received a lot of stick and criticism for an article that I wrote last year in Multilingual magazine that its title is "Language is no longer human." But I do believe that. Now, language is what separates. We've been educated to believe that language is what separated us from animals, that we were different from the rest of creation because we had developed language. Now we have machines that produce language. So that thing, and they produce language at scale. And they produce language 24 hours, they never sick, 24/7, with a fair amount of, with a good amount of accuracy. 30% of what ChatGPT produces are hallucinations, but there are ways that you can do that with RAG systems and you can narrow it down. But even small systems, they're fluent. LLMs are fluent. So we cannot beat, my point is that you cannot beat machines at their game. You cannot beat a machine at retrieval because it's a machine. So you can feed the machines with 1,000 hard disks of information of every library or every film in Europe, and it will be able to retrieve information much faster and more accurately than any human. Okay, that is not our game. We cannot fight machines. Let's use machines to do what humans do best, which is abstract thinking. And you said something very interesting, Horacio. There is language, there are sequences, there are images that only human can do that. Well, Eleni has a very good system that can detect fake. that as well. But what machines are completely incapable, and I mean, as a developer, I will say this, I cannot see AI doing this in 100 years or even more, is abstract thinking. So I've got a very good tool now that can summarize the complete works of Homer or Shakespeare or Cervantes or whatever. And it can compare those with the works of Spanish Golden Age or the Italian, and drawing a parallel. It's going to do that at the speed that even if I'm the most knowledgeable academic, I cannot draft documents and draw comparisons at that speed. And that was my life. So I feel threatened. But okay, let's move away from that. Now I have a tool that does that for me. That tool cannot have the level of abstract thinking and world knowledge that me as a human can have. That is the step that perhaps is a generation thing. Even me, I feel old sometimes when I try to do things, or apply. But I've come now to the conclusion that any long 3-hour, 7-hour research into an area, Google into Google and finding the papers, I can do that with AI very quickly. What AI is not going to help me is to do the abstracting of that data. And that's how we are too old now, everyone here. Well, we have some young people here, they can be saved. But we have to educate our students, the younger generations, on that level, on abstract thinking. Not on accumulating levels and years of perhaps reading. Perhaps reading is too old.
Can I bring Yanis on this? Yanis, you raised your hand before. Yanis comes
thanks.
From Liverpool. Yeah, come in.
Hi, everybody. I raised my hand at some point because we have been discussing at that point something that I think is one of the main challenges now with AI. Of course, the discussion since then has moved on. So if I say it now, it will bring you back a bit. Right. I think the main limitation is that now everybody knows about it without knowing about it. So people know the acronym, people know ChatGPT. Younger generations maybe are playing with other multimodal tools and things, but the percentage of people that knows about it really is going less and less as it opens to bigger communities and more people get involved. So that is a challenge because things can go very, very wrong if education doesn't cover it. You said, I don't know if I think Horacio said it. No, that at 4 years of age, people are in schools now. There are modules that introduce AI. I'm not sure these teachers will know what to teach.
Yeah.
So that's the main challenge. That's the main challenge. And as with every other trend, people build a lot of trust and a lot of expectation on these models. And at some point, part of it will collapse. People will realize the limitations. There are some limitations. And as we go ahead, systems become better and better. But I'm not sure that, okay, maybe in this community here, with a lot of people from NLP like me and a lot of other speakers, we realize that it is relationships between words, it's distant relationships, it's parsing and syntactic analysis behind all this. It's probability models, it's non-deterministic models that are involved, it's neural networks in the background, but people don't realize this. They think it's something that will think and tell you what it thinks. So at some point, this will collapse. And that's the crucial point where we need to carry on building trust around the main capabilities rather than building huge hope around it. So I think that's an important aspect. Now, the second thing I want to say is about academia. As you said, we are being pushed to depend more and more on external power, on big companies building our models, on us not having enough resources to run big models, train them, and we're just doing research by, prompt engineering or fine-tuning models to the capacity that each one of us has in their institution. But one way or the other, we're depending more and more on external factors whose aims may not be the same as academic aims. So that for me is a big dependency, danger, challenge, however you want to call it. And Anna, thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you very, very much.
Maybe I would like to add, if Pilar.
Yeah.
So thank you, Yanis. I think I agree with what you have said. I think that one of the challenges also is the divide in society. A digital divide. You can imagine, people. This is Accessibility Awareness Day, and not everybody is. These interfaces may be not accessible for some users, so we need to pay attention to this issue. Although models are able to produce audio, video, images, and text. The interface probably not the most appropriate, and the way to communicate also may not be the most appropriate. Also, there are challenges such as privacy constraint that have been explained in previous interventions. And also, I mean, the cost for environment is extremely high. For some activities that you need to carry out, you don't need these huge models. Maybe you need smaller ones. So maybe research also should look into making models more accessible in terms of consumption. But yeah, I mean, opportunities there are obviously infinite. I will agree with Manuel on reasoning abstraction. Manuel said that what separates us from the rest is the language. Probably that hypothesis needs to be reformulated. It is more than the language, or more than the language, just producing a sequence of tokens, let's say, yeah, a language that underlying it has some meaning, right? But anyways, I'll not continue talking.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this roundtable. I wish we could talk longer, but I have to hand over the roundtable to Chiara.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for organizing these roundtables and also for the speakers, because I think we learned that there is a lot to learn and unlearn about AI. And we wanted to create this space actually to discuss and trying to raise awareness. Now we are running a bit late, so I want to ask to the audience if they have any questions that they want to ask you, and they can do it through the chat or raising their hands. Just a reminder, Cave Nori and Zenon Lambro are not here, so they shared their emails in the chat if you want to ask questions to them. I also want to say thank you to my team, to TransMedia Catalonia and the AccessTalks initiative, to all the speakers, to the ALFI project. And I put here a QR code in case you want to share your feedback about this session, and it's also shared the link in the chat. So now it's the time if you have any questions. We will run a few minutes late, but let's see if we have some questions. We have a lot of thank you for the time being. Amazing presentation. Yes, we have Patrick that has a question for us. Go ahead.
Hello, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Patrick. I'm a white male, about middle age. I've got a brown beard, brown hair, and if you could look from the back, you would see a little top knot, but I think it's not visible right now. I'm calling it from Glasgow, UK. And I just, it was a point that was brought up earlier. It was brought up by Kaveh, but I didn't hear anybody else really speak to it because we talked a lot about the text-based tools and the information processing. But just if anybody left wanted to talk about it in relation to, I guess, accessibility in terms of the emotional recognition side of it. I come from disability work where we work a lot with neurodivergent folks who, I guess, kind of have a very different relationship to emotionality. And that's kind of one of the things I haven't heard discussed very much. So I just thought to ask anybody else on the call if they had anything, just because it was a footnote in what Kaveh was talking about, but if anybody else had just one or two things that they could share about that, I'd be really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Our speakers, do you want to add on this point?
Sorry, I mean, I cannot answer the question. I'm sorry, Patrick, but I think that the presentation by Zenon had some maybe some relationship to emotion recognition obviously through image processing. I think that he mentioned at some point something, but I'm sorry, I'm not from. I mean, we have working classification of messages, but I mean, it's probably not what you refer to. But sorry, I cannot help.
No worries, it's okay.
But I think, Patrick, we will consider your point and maybe organize a dedicated meeting on this on this aspect. I think it's important that you brought that point. I see a question from Estela.
Yes, hello. Sorry, more than a question, it's a kind of reply to Patrick, not a reply in itself, but we have also at TransMedia Catalonia a project on neurodiversity, and on virtual reality, and I do fully agree that the perception, the emotional perception of neurodiverse people is different from what a neurotypical person might be. So in itself, emotion is biased. So, and I think it's a very relevant point to explore. Also in terms of AI, how the emotional recognition is not only the color of your skin, how your tone or your voice, but also the perception of emotions. So happy to discuss this further, and thanks for pointing this out.
Thank you, Estela, for raising this point. I think that also in terms of culture, we express emotions in very different ways. So if you just use a very standard way of imagining emotion, you may exclude certain collectives. Olga, I see you're raising your hand. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Olga Davis. I am from University of Surrey. I'm a PhD student doing a project in audio description. And I just wanted to maybe not so much reply, but to pick up on Patrick's idea. There is some research that has been done at the University of Surrey to do with autistic children and emotional recognition and using assistive commentaries in that context. So yeah, if you wanted to maybe contact me if you're interested, I can send you the publications related to this research. And also I would be interested if there is a follow-up session like this, but dedicated to this topic. I'll be interested to take part maybe as well in this discussion because it's quite important. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to audio describe myself. I'm a European-looking woman with shoulder length, light brown hair, and yeah, I'm based in Liverpool at the moment, so not far from Glasgow. Yes, and that's thank you very much for the session as well.
Thank you very much, Olga, for your input. And this webinar is part of this series AccessTalks, so we will definitely consider for a next one to implement these reflections. And I think we have a last question that we can try to address, which is in the chat. I will read it out loud, which is, as a newly graduated linguistic translator with the theory prior to AI and the gap with current technology, what do you think are the best options to implement AI in our work profession? Not in the translation task per se, but rather what are the AI-related skills that a linguistic needs are most in demand today to complement her profile? And this question is from Aruna. So, Manuel, do you want to answer to this question?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know you were going to.
No worries.
So there's many things that Aruna could do. I've added two to the chat. One is to find out how AI agents can complement the work, or I'm not going to use the word substitute, but can automate a lot of the manual or slow tasks or workflows that we had in the past. So how AI agents can run the first translation, do the editing, the post-editing, etc. Barcelona Supercomputing Center has released a model for translation. I don't know whether you know it. It's called Salamandra TA, and it has. It's not state of the art, but it's a good step in the right direction. And it includes named entity recognition. It includes post-editing tasks, as well as translation by segment, paragraph, or document. And that is in one model. So knowing how to use the models is my best advice. And then knowing the agents, which is something different, but equally useful. And then anything that Aruna can do on quality estimation. Because these models do hallucinate. We know that they're large language models and they're designed to generate, and you cannot stop a dog from barking. It's a dog. So you can put guardrails, you can do a lot of things around them, but eventually, sooner or later, there's a hallucination. And then Peter is translated as John, and Mary is translated as Joanna, and there's a sentence missing, and so on. And so anything to do with quality estimation or fault detection.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so I think we can close the webinar, but before, I just want to thank all of you for your contributions, for being here, for the speakers for presenting their projects and initiatives, and to all of you that have joined. There is a tradition in our group, which is close the webinars with what we have called chat storming. So you share in the chat how we have felt, how was the workshop for you, how was the webinar for you. And while you are leaving, I will read this out loud. It's such a sort of, I don't know, romantic goodbye, or it's our way to close the session. So if you want to do the chat storming, I will read aloud. And thank you so much for joining. Please give us your feedback because it's very important, and keep posted about our following events. And thank you very, very much.
Right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We have amazing presentation and a lot of food for thought. Thank you all. Thanks, very interesting. Congrats. It was an enlightening session. Thanks for the great work. It was an eye-opener for some topics. Look forward to the future events from this group. Informative, thanks. Fascinating, thanks. Great work, thank you. Insightful and varied webinar. Thank you to all the panelists and speakers. Great presentation. Thank you a lot. Thank you for organizing this. So thank you very much to all of you. And I will close the webinar now. See you the next time.
No negative comments, Chiara?
Not yet. Not yet. We will see in the feedback questionnaire, but I will inform you in case we have some.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
AccessTalks. More information at https://webs.uab.cat/transmedia/accesstalks.